The transport ship landed on the dusty platform with a loud hiss of steam and burning metal. Commander Marcus Chen stood alone in the cold wind, watching the vessel settle onto the cracked ground. He had been waiting for 3 hours. The message from the Galactic Council said they were sending him a gift. Marcus knew better than to trust gifts from people who hated him. 2 years ago, Marcus had been the most respected human diplomat in the galaxy. He had built bridges between species that had been enemies for centuries. He had stopped wars with words alone. The Council had called him valuable. They had called him essential. Then came the refugee crisis. A convoy of 3,000 civilians had fled from a dying world. They had nowhere to go. The Council ordered Marcus to turn them away. They said the refugees were not worth the political trouble. They said letting them pass would upset powerful trading partners. Marcus had refused. He had opened the gates and let every single refugee through. He had saved 3,000 lives. And in return, the Council had taken everything from him. Now, he lived on a forgotten mining outpost at the edge of known space. His crew was made up of others who had been thrown away by the galaxy. Former soldiers with too much conscience, scientists who asked the wrong questions, workers who had spoken against the powerful. They had all found their way to Marcus. Together they had built something small but good on this worthless rock. The transport door opened, and for Valory. Guards walked out. They were tall insectoid creatures with hard shells the color of dried blood. Their compound eyes showed no emotion. Behind them, they dragged something in chains. Marcus felt his stomach turn cold. The prisoner was also Valory. But unlike the guards, she had been broken. Her wings had been torn from her back, leaving ragged wounds that had barely healed. Her antennae had been cut short, leaving only stumps. She wore rags instead of the fine robes her kind was known for. Heavy chains connected her wrists to her ankles, forcing her to walk bent over like an animal. The lead guard threw a data tablet at Marcus. It landed in the dust at his feet. A gift from the Valory Dominion to the human who loves refugees so much, the guard said. His voice was full of mockery. This is Syraxis, former queen of our people. Now she is nothing. We give her to you as a symbol of our respect for humanity, the guards laughed. The sound was like metal scraping against stone. Marcus picked up the tablet and read quickly. Queen Syraxis had ruled the Valory for 30 years. She had been overthrown in a civil war 6 months ago. The new government had killed her entire family. They had kept her alive only to suffer. And now they were giving her to Marcus because they expected him to either kill her or fail to control her. Either way, they would use it as proof that humans were not worthy of respect. The guards unchained Syraxis from their transport hook and shoved her forward. She fell face first into the dust. She did not try to get up. Enjoy your gift, human, the lead guard said. We will be watching. As the transport lifted off without another word, leaving Marcus alone with the broken queen. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Marcus looked down at the creature lying in the dirt. She was waiting for him to kick her, he realized. Or maybe to put a weapon to her head and end her misery. In her experience, that was what the powerful did to the fallen. Marcus knelt down slowly. He reached toward her chains. Syraxis flinched. Her body tensed, preparing for pain. Instead, Marcus found the lock mechanism and released it. The chains fell away from her wrists with a heavy clang. Can you stand? He asked quietly. Syraxis did not answer. She did not move. Marcus stood up and walked a few steps away. He returned with a container of water. He set it down next to her head where she could see it. Drink if you want, he said. When you are ready to move, I will take you somewhere warm. There is food. There is medicine for your wounds. No one is going to hurt you here. Syraxis finally lifted her head. Her compound eyes, normally bright with intelligence, were dull and empty. She looked at Marcus as if he were speaking a language she did not understand. Why? She asked. Her voice was rough from disuse. Why? What? Why are you not hurting me? I am your enemy. My people have spoken against humanity in the Council for decades. I am defeated. I am worthless. There is nothing to gain from showing me kindness. Marcus considered the question. He sat down in the dust across from her, putting himself at her level. "Where I come from," he said, "we have a belief. We believe that how you treat people when they cannot fight back says everything about who you really are. You are not my enemy. You are a person who has been hurt. I do not need a reason beyond that." Syraxis stared at him for a long time. In her 30 years as queen, she had learned to read the intentions of every species she encountered. Kindness was always a mask for something else. Generosity was always a trade. Power was the only truth. But she could not find the lie in this human's eyes. Slowly, painfully, she reached for the water. Her hands were shaking. Marcus did not try to help her. He understood that she needed to do this herself. She drank. The water was cool and clean. It was the first kindness anyone had shown her in 6 months. "I do not understand you," she said finally. "That is okay," Marcus replied. "You do not have to understand me. You just have to know that you are safe here. Whatever happens next is your choice." He stood and offered her his hand. After a long hesitation, she took it. He helped her to her feet. She was taller than him by nearly a head, but she seemed small somehow. Broken, he led her toward the main building of the outpost. Inside, a young human woman named Dr. Sarah Park was already preparing a medical station. She had seen the transport arrive. She had guessed what the council's gift might be. "The wounds on her back are infected," Marcus told Sarah. "The antennae stumps might need cleaning too. Be gentle. She has been through enough." Sarah nodded and guided Syraxis to a chair. The queen moved like someone in a dream, still unable to process what was happening. Marcus watched for a moment, then turned to leave. Human Syraxis called out. He stopped. "What do you want from me?" "Everyone wants something. Tell me the price of this kindness, and I will find a way to pay it." His face was sad, but kind. "There is no price," he said. "Rest, heal. When you are stronger, we can talk about what comes next. But right now, the only thing I want from you is for you to survive." He left before she could respond. Syraxis sat in silence while Dr. Park cleaned her wounds. Her mind was spinning. Everything she knew about the universe told her this was impossible. Kindness without purpose. Mercy without agenda. It went against every law of power she had ever learned. And yet here she was, unchained, cared for, treated like a person instead of a prize. She did not know what to do with this feeling. 3 hours later, as Syraxis rested in a warm bed for the first time in months, the outpost sensors detected something troubling. Marcus stood in the control room, staring at the screen with growing concern. 2 signatures had appeared at the edge of the system. One was a council inspection vessel. The other was a Valori, a war fleet of 12 ships. They were both heading directly for the outpost. Marcus closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He had known this moment would come. The gift had been a trap from the beginning, but he had made his choice the moment he removed those chains. Whatever came next, he would not regret it. The council inspection vessel landed first. It was a sleek silver ship designed to look impressive and intimidating. The Valori fleet remained in orbit, waiting like hungry predators circling their prey. Inspector Thesic walked down the landing ramp with the confidence of someone who believed he was better than everyone around him. He was a Crexian, a reptilian species known for their cold efficiency and love of rules. His scales were the color of old copper, and his yellow eyes missed nothing. Marcus met him at the landing pad. The wind had picked up, carrying dust and the smell of the mining operations across the empty ground. "Commander Chen," Thesic said. His voice was flat and emotionless. "I am here to conduct an inspection of your facility. The council has received reports of ... irregularities." "What kind of irregularities?" Marcus asked calmly. "You received a diplomatic gift from the Valori Dominion, a prisoner of significant political importance. The council wishes to know what you have done with her. She is recovering from her injuries. She was badly wounded when she arrived." Thesic's eyes narrowed. "You are providing medical care to her?" "Yes." "Why?" Marcus almost smiled. It was strange how many people had asked him that question in the past day. "'Cause she needed help," he said simply. Vesic studied him for a long moment. In his experience, no one did anything without expecting something in return. This human was either lying or insane. Possibly both. "I will need to see her," Vesic said. "And I will need to inspect your entire facility. The Valori fleet commander has made certain demands. He wants the prisoner returned to them for ... processing." "Processing," Marcus repeated. "You mean execution?" "That is not my concern. My concern is ensuring that this situation does not create problems for the Council." Marcus nodded slowly. "Come with me. I will show you whatever you want to see. But I will not hand over someone who has done nothing wrong to be killed for political entertainment." Vesic followed Marcus into the outpost. As they walked through the corridors, the inspector noticed things that surprised him. Crochin Minor, a species known for their violent tempers, was teaching a human child how to play a small stringed instrument. A former Valori soldier, one of many refugees who had fled the Civil War, was sharing a meal with two humans and laughing at something one of them had said. Different species working together, eating together, living together as equals. Vesic had traveled to hundreds of worlds in his career. He had never seen anything quite like this. "Your operation here is unusual," he said carefully. "We take in people who have nowhere else to go," Marcus replied. "We do not care what species they are or what they did before. Everyone works. Everyone contributes. Everyone eats." A naive approach. Different species have different needs, different cultures. Conflicts are inevitable. Conflicts happen everywhere. The question is how you handle them. Here, we talk. We listen. We find solutions that work for everyone. It is not perfect, but it is better than letting people suffer alone. They reached the medical bay. Inside, Cyraxis was sitting up in bed. Dr. Park had cleaned and bandaged her wounds. Some color had returned to her face. She looked almost alive again. When she saw Vesic, her body tensed. She knew what council inspectors meant. They were the ones who made problems disappear. "Queen Cyraxis," Vesic said formally. "I am Inspector Vesic of the Galactic Council. I am here to assess your situation." "My situation," Cyraxis repeated bitterly. "You mean you are here to decide whether to send me back to be executed or to let the humans kill me instead?" "I am here to gather information. Nothing more." Cyraxis laughed. It was a harsh sound with no joy in it. "Do not lie to me, Inspector. I was a queen for 30 years. I know how politics works. The Valori want me dead. The Council wants this problem to go away quietly. The easiest solution is to give them what they want." Vesic did not deny it. He could not. Marcus stepped forward. "Inspector, I need you to understand something. I do not care about politics. I do not care about what is easy or convenient. This woman was sent to me in chains, beaten and broken, as some kind of sick joke. I removed those chains. I gave her food and water and medicine, and I will not undo that just because it makes things complicated for the Council. The Valori fleet will not leave without her," Vesic said. "Commander Varaxis has made that very clear. He has authorization to use force if necessary. Then he will have to use force, because I am not handing anyone over to be murdered." The room fell silent. Vesic looked at Marcus with something that might have been confusion or might have been curiosity. "You would risk war with the Valori Dominion for one prisoner? One former queen who has no power, no allies, no value?" "She has value because she is a person," Marcus said. "That is enough." Cyraxis stared at the human with growing disbelief. She had heard politicians make grand speeches about justice and mercy before. They always had hidden motives. They always wanted something. But Marcus was not a politician. He was just a man who had already lost everything for doing the right thing once before, and he was willing to lose everything again. "You're insane," she whispered. "Probably," Marcus agreed. A communication alarm sounded throughout the outpost. Marcus excused himself and hurried to the control room. Vesic followed, leaving Cyraxis alone with her thoughts in the control room. Marcus found his communications officer, a young man named David, looking worried. "Commander, we are receiving a message from the Valerie fleet. Commander Vroxis wants to speak with you directly." "Put him through." The main screen flickered to life. Commander Vroxis was a large Valerie with a shell that had been polished to a mirror shine. His eyes were cold and cruel. Human Vroxis said, "I will make this simple. You have something that belongs to us. The Traitor Queen. You will return her to us within 12 hours. If you do not, we will destroy your pathetic little outpost and everyone in it." "She is not a traitor," Marcus replied calmly. "She is a refugee, and I do not return refugees to be executed." Vraxis made a sound like grinding metal. A Valerie laugh. "You think you can protect her? You have no weapons. No fleet, no allies. The Council will not help you. No one will help you. You are alone, human. Completely alone, maybe, but that does not change my answer." Vraxis leaned closer to the screen. "Let me be clear. If the Queen is not delivered to my ship in 12 hours, I will begin bombardment. I will reduce your outpost to ashes. I will kill every man, woman, and child on that rock. And then I will land troops to dig through the ruins until I find what is left of her. One way or another, I will have my prize." The screen went dark. The control room was silent. Everyone had heard the threat. Everyone knew it was not a bluff. Desik stood in the doorway, watching Marcus carefully. "Well, Commander Chen, what will you do now?" Marcus looked at his crew. They were afraid. He could see it in their eyes. But none of them suggested giving up the Queen. None of them asked him to surrender. He had chosen these people well. "David, start evacuation protocols for non-essential personnel. Move everyone to the lower mining tunnels. They are deep enough to survive orbital bombardment." "And the Queen?" Desik asked. "She stays with us. Hidden. Safe. You cannot win this fight. You must know that." Marcus turned to face the inspector. His eyes were calm and steady. "I am not trying to win, Inspector. I am trying to do what is right. Sometimes that is the same thing. Sometimes it is not. But either way, I am not giving up." He walked past the sick toward the medical bay. 12 hours, he muttered to himself. "We have 12 hours to figure out how to survive this." We did not know how. He did not know if it was even possible. But he knew he would not stop trying. The evacuation began immediately. Marcus had trained his people well. Within 2 hours, all non-essential personnel had been moved to the deep mining tunnels beneath the outpost. These tunnels went nearly a kilometer underground. They had been carved out of solid rock over decades of mining operations. Even orbital bombardment would not reach them. But survival was not the same as victory. Marcus stood at the entrance to the tunnels, watching families hurry past him. Human children held hands with Crochine young ones. Former enemies walked side by side without fear. This was what he had built. This was what he was trying to protect. Dr. Park approached him with Cyraxis. The Queen was walking on her own now, though slowly. Her wounds were still healing. "We should get her underground," Sarah said. "If the Valori scan the surface, they might be able to locate her." Marcus nodded. "Take her to Section 7. It is the deepest part of the tunnels. Stay with her." Cyraxis stopped. She had been silent since the evacuation began, watching everything with her dull compound eyes. But now she spoke. "You are sending your people into hiding. You are preparing to fight a battle you cannot win. All of this for me, yes," Marcus said simply. "Why? I am not worth this. I am broken, useless. My own people rejected me. Why would strangers die for me?" Marcus looked at her for a long moment. Then he turned to gesture at the people moving through the tunnels. "Do you see that family there? The woman with the 2 children?" Cyraxis looked. A tired human woman was carrying a small child while holding the hand of an older one. "Her name is Maria. She was a teacher on a colony world. When her planet was invaded, she ran with nothing but her children. The Council refused to help her. They said she was not politically important enough. She found her way here because she had nowhere else to go." He pointed to an old Croatian male helping to carry supplies. That is Gorthok. He was a soldier for 40 years. When he refused to execute prisoners of war, his own commanders tried to have him killed. He escaped and spent 3 years running before he found us. Marcus turned back to Syraxis. Everyone here has a story like that. Everyone here was thrown away by the galaxy. Told they were worthless. Told they did not matter. I took them in because someone had to. And now, they are my family. But I am not part of your family. I am a stranger. An enemy. You were a stranger yesterday. Today you are someone who needs help. Tomorrow, who knows? But I do not decide who deserves protection based on how useful they are to me. That is not how family works. Syraxis had no answer for this. In her entire life, no one had ever spoken to her this way. Among the Valori, weakness was death. The fallen were forgotten. The useless were discarded. These humans were different. And she did not understand how. Dr. Park gently took her arm. Let us get you somewhere safe. Syraxis allowed herself to be led into the tunnels. But she kept looking back at Marcus until she could no longer see him. The hours passed slowly. Marcus organized the defense as best he could. The outpost had no real weapons, only mining equipment. But mining lasers could cut through rock. They could also cut through ship hulls, if aimed correctly. It would not stop a fleet, but it might slow them down. Inspector Thesic had not left. Marcus found him in the control room, staring at the screens showing the Valori fleet in orbit. "You could leave," Marcus said. "Take your ship and go. The Council would not blame you for avoiding a battle you had no part in." Thesic did not turn around. "I have been an inspector for 23 years. I have seen many things. Corruption, cruelty, injustice. I learned to look away. To do my job and nothing more. It was easier that way." He finally turned to face Marcus. "But I have never seen anything like this. You have no hope of winning. You have nothing to gain and everything to lose. And yet you are still fighting. Your people are still following you. Why? Because giving up is worse than losing." Thesic was quiet for a moment. Then he reached into his coat and pulled out a small device. "This is a Council emergency beacon. It can send a message through diplomatic channels that even the Valori cannot jam. I was supposed to use it only if my life was in direct danger from a Council enemy." He held it out to Marcus. "The Valori are not official Council enemies. Using this beacon would be a violation of protocol. It could end my career." Marcus did not take the device. "Then why are you offering it?" "Because you were right, Commander. How we treat people when they cannot fight back says everything about who we really are. I have been a coward for 23 years. Perhaps it is time to be something else." He pressed the button on the beacon. A small light began to blink. "The message will reach the nearest human fleet in approximately 4 hours. Whether they arrive in time is another question." "Thank you," Marcus said quietly. "Do not thank me yet. We may all die before help arrives." The 12-hour deadline came and went. Commander Vraxis had been bluffing about waiting. Or perhaps he had simply grown impatient. The first plasma strike hit the surface at R10. It vaporized the landing pad where Syraxis had arrived just 2 days ago. The ground shook so hard that people in the tunnels fell to their knees. More strikes followed. The main buildings were destroyed one by one. The control room. The living quarters. The medical bay. Everything Marcus and his people had built over 2 years was reduced to burning rubble in minutes. But the tunnels held. The people inside were frightened but alive. Marcus was in Section 5, helping to reinforce a tunnel wall that had cracked from the bombardment when Dr. Park came running toward him. "Commander, you need to come to Section 7. Something is happening with the Queen." Marcus followed her through the winding tunnels. When they reached Section 7, he found Syraxis, sitting alone in the darkness. Her eyes were closed. Her body was trembling. "What is wrong with her?" Marcus asked. "I do not know. She has been like this for an hour. She will not respond to anything I say." Marcus knelt down in front of Syraxis. He could see tears streaming from her compound eyes. He had not known that Valerie could cry.
Araxes.
Can you hear me? Her eyes opened slowly. They were no longer dull. Something had changed. I can feel them, she whispered. My people. I thought the connection was gone. They cut my antennae. They severed me from the hive mind. But the bond is not physical. It is quantum. It exists beyond flesh. What are you saying? I can reach them, Marcus. Not just the fleet above us. All of them. Every Valoria who still carries the old bond. Millions of minds waiting to hear a voice they thought was dead. Marcus felt his heart begin to race. What would you say to them? Siraxis looked at him with something new in her eyes. Hope. Fragile and uncertain, but real. I do not know. For months, I believed I had nothing left to offer. I was a queen without a throne, a voice without an audience. But you showed me something different. You showed me that worth is not about power or titles. It is about choice, about who we decide to be. She reached out and took his hand. Her grip was weak, but steady. If I reach out to my people, I will not beg them to save me. I will not demand their loyalty. I will show them what you showed me. I will let them see through my eyes what humanity truly is. And then I will let them choose. And if they choose to ignore you, then at least I will have tried. At least I will have been more than what they made me. The ground shook again as another plasma strike hit the surface. Dust fell from the tunnel ceiling. Somewhere in the distance, a child was crying. Marcus squeezed her hand. Do it, whatever happens. At least we will have tried. Siraxis closed her eyes. She reached deep within herself, past the pain and the fear and the years of believing she was nothing. She found the quantum bond that connected her to her people. It was faint, damaged, but it was there, and she began to broadcast. Not words, not commands. Just memories, images, feelings. A human removing her chains. Water offered without conditions. Medicine given by gentle hands. Children of different species playing together. Former enemies sharing meals. A man willing to die for a stranger because he believed everyone deserved dignity. She sent it all, pouring everything she had into the bond and across the galaxy. Millions of Valerie suddenly stopped what they were doing. They listened, they saw, and slowly, one by one, they began to question everything they had ever been taught. The effect of Siraxis's broadcast was immediate and powerful on the Valori flagship. Common soldiers stopped in the middle of their duties. Their compound eyes went distant as memories that were not their own flooded through the quantum bond. They saw a human kneeling in the dust, removing chains from a fallen queen. They felt the warmth of clean water offered freely. They experienced kindness without conditions, mercy without agenda. For beings who had known only hierarchy and obedience their entire lives, it was like seeing color for the first time. Captain Crix was an old soldier. He had served the royal family for 60 years, first under Siraxis's mother, then under Siraxis herself. When the new government came to power, he had been forced to pledge loyalty or die. He had chosen to live. He had told himself it was the practical choice. Now, feeling the Queen's broadcast wash through his mind, he remembered why he had once been proud to serve her. He turned to his weapons officer. Stand down. The officer looked confused. Sir, Commander Vraxis ordered continuous bombardment. I know what he ordered, and I am ordering you to stand down now. On the bridge of another ship, a similar scene was playing out. Lieutenant Cyrix, barely 30 years old, had never known the old queen. She had grown up under the new regime, taught that the royal family had been weak and corrupt. But the memories pouring through the bond told a different story. She saw Siraxis, not as a fallen tyrant, but as a wounded creature, being shown kindness by beings who had no reason to be kind. She saw humans choosing compassion over convenience. She saw something beautiful. Navigation, she said quietly. Break formation. Move us away from the bombardment zone, Lieutenant. That is treason. Maybe, but I cannot be part of this anymore. One by one, ships began to break formation. First 2, then 4, then 6. Half of Commander Veraxis's fleet was suddenly refusing to follow orders. On the flagship's command deck, Veraxis watched the chaos with growing rage. His carefully polished shell seemed to darken with fury. "What is happening?" he demanded. "Why are ships breaking formation?" His communications officer was pale with fear. "Sir, the soldiers are receiving some kind of broadcast. It is coming through the old quantum bond. The one the Queen was supposed to have lost when her antennae were cut. Impossible. That bond requires physical connection." "Apparently not, sir. The broadcast is spreading. It is reaching every ship. Every soldier who still carries the old genetic markers." Veraxis slammed his fist against his console. "Then jam it. Block it. Destroy whatever's creating it." "We cannot jam a quantum signal, sir. It operates outside normal space, and the source appears to be underground. We would have to dig through a kilometer of rock to reach it." Veraxis turned to his weapons officer. "Then we dig. Increase bombardment to maximum power. I want that entire mountain turned to dust." The weapons officer hesitated. "Sir, the other ships are refusing to fire. Only our vessel, and to others, are still responding to commands." "Then we do it ourselves. Fire everything we have." The flagship's weapons roared to life. Plasma beams of incredible power slammed into the planet's surface, turning rock into lava and air into fire. The ground above the tunnels began to crack and crumble. In Section 7, the walls were shaking violently. Marcus held onto a support beam while Dr. Park sheltered Sorexis with her own body. Rocks fell from the ceiling. The air was filling with dust. "The tunnels are going to collapse." David shouted from somewhere nearby. "Hold on." Marcus yelled back. "Just hold on." And then, as suddenly as it had begun, the bombardment stopped. Marcus looked up, confused. Had they run out of ammunition? Had something gone wrong with their weapons? The answer came through the communication system moments later. David's voice was shaking with disbelief.
"Commander."
"Ships are fighting each other up there. Half the Valerie fleet is firing on the other half." Marcus climbed through the rubble to reach a functioning screen. What he saw made his heart stop. The Valerie fleet had erupted into civil war. Ships that had been attacking the planet were now defending it. Captain Crix's vessel had placed itself directly between the flagship and the planet, taking plasma fire that had been meant for the surface. "The Queen's broadcast," Marcus whispered. "It worked. They are choosing to fight for her." But the battle was not going well for the rebels. They had numbers, but the loyalist ships had better weapons and more experienced commanders. Crix's vessel was taking heavy damage. Another rebel ship exploded in a burst of light. They were willing to die for what they believed in. But they were still losing. Then the sensors detected. Something new. Ships were emerging from hyperspace at the edge of the system. Human ships. A full battle group, led by a massive carrier with the name Harmony painted on its hull. Inspector Vesic appeared at Marcus's side. "My beacon worked." "They came. They came," Marcus repeated, hardly believing it. Admiral Yuki Tanaka was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been fighting battles since before Marcus was born. She had seen every kind of conflict the galaxy had to offer, but she had never seen anything quite like this. Half an alien fleet in open rebellion, a mining outpost in ruins. A former queen broadcasting hope to millions of minds. She made her decision quickly. Open a channel to all ships, all frequencies, all languages. Her communications officer complied. "Attention all vessels. This is Admiral Tanaka of the Human Defense Fleet. We are not here to fight. We are here to help. Any ship that wants to stop shooting, stand down and receive aid. We have medical vessels, food, supplies, no conditions, no demands. We are just here to help." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Captain Crix's damaged vessel broadcast a response. "Human fleet, this is Captain Crix. We accept your offer. We stand down." More ships followed. One by one, the rebels stopped firing and moved toward the human fleet. Even some of the loyalist vessels, their crews, inspired by what they had felt through the quantum bond, chose to surrender rather than continue fighting. Only Commander Vraxis refused to yield. "You are all traitors," he screamed over the open channel. "You are all cowards. I will destroy you myself. I will destroy everything." His flagship turned toward the planet, weapons charging for one final devastating strike. But before he could fire, 3 rebel ships moved into his path. They were damaged and weak. They had no chance of surviving a direct confrontation. They attacked anyway. "Captain." Crix's vessel rammed the flagship's weapons array, destroying it completely. The impact killed Crix instantly. He died smiling. The flagship was now powerless. Its engines were damaged. Its weapons were gone. Commander Vraxis stood on a dead bridge, surrounded by soldiers who no longer believed in him. "It is over," Admiral Tanaka broadcast. "Commander Vraxis, surrender your vessel. No more lives need to be lost today." For a long moment, the channel was silent. Then Vraxis spoke, his voice hollow and broken. "I surrender." In the tunnels below, Marcus heard the news. The fighting was over. They had survived. He looked at Syraxis. She was exhausted. The broadcast had taken everything she had, but her eyes were bright again, alive. "You did it," he said. "You reached them." "You did it," she corrected. "You showed me that it was possible. You showed me that choice matters more than power. I just passed the message along." Dr. Park was crying with relief. David was laughing and hugging anyone within reach. All around them, people who had been certain they were going to die were discovering that they were going to live. Marcus helped Syraxis to her feet. "Can you walk?" "The rescue ships will be landing soon. We should go meet them." Syraxis nodded. She leaned on his shoulder as they made their way toward the surface. Behind them, the ruins of the outposts were still smoking. Above them, the wreckage of destroyed ships floated in orbit. But around them, people of a dozen different species were helping each other through the rubble, carrying the wounded, comforting the frightened. It was the most beautiful thing Syraxis had ever seen. "Marcus," she said quietly as they walked, "I do not know what comes next. I do not know if my people will truly change or if this is just a moment of madness that will fade. But I know one thing for certain." "What is that?" "I was a queen once. I had palaces and servants and power beyond imagination, but I never had anything like this. I never had people who believed in me simply because of who I was, not what I could give them." She stopped and turned to face him. "Thank you for everything," Marcus smiled. "You are welcome. Now come on. We have a lot of work to do." They walked together toward the light of the rescue ships descending from the sky. 3 months had passed since the battle at the mining outpost. In that time, the galaxy had changed in ways that no one could have predicted. The human rescue fleet had stayed for weeks, helping to rebuild what had been destroyed and caring for the wounded from both sides of the conflict. They did not ask for payment. They did not demand political concessions. They simply helped because help was needed. The Valori who had witnessed this were transformed by the experience. They had grown up believing that humans were primitive, emotional creatures who could not be trusted. Instead, they found beings who treated strangers like family and enemies like guests. It confused them. It amazed them. And slowly it changed them. The civil war within the Valori Dominion spread far beyond the mining outpost. Queen Syraxis' broadcast had planted seeds of doubt in millions of minds. Those seeds grew into questions. Those questions grew into demands for change. Within 2 months, the new government had collapsed, brought down not by weapons but by the simple refusal of ordinary citizens to follow orders they no longer believed in. Now, Syraxis stood before the Galactic Council. In the same chamber where humanity had been condemned and marginalized 2 years before, but this time, she did not come as a prisoner or a refugee. She came as a representative of the Free Valori movement. The chamber was vast, filled with delegates from hundreds of species. Many of them had voted against humanity in the past. Many of them had laughed at Marcus Chen when he was exiled for showing mercy to refugees. They were not laughing now. "Members of the council," Syraxis began. Her voice was stronger than it had been in months. I come before you today not to ask for vengeance against those who wronged me. I do not come to demand restoration of my throne. I come to tell you a story." The chamber fell silent. Even the most cynical delegates leaned forward to listen. 3 months ago, I was sent to a forgotten outpost as a cruel joke. I was given to a human named Marcus Chen because my enemies believed he would either kill me or fail to control me. Either outcome would have proven that humans were not worthy of respect. She paused, letting the words sink in. Instead, something remarkable happened. The human removed my chains. He gave me food and water. He treated my wounds. When I asked him why, he gave me an answer I could not understand. He said that he helped me because I was a person who was suffering. That was his only reason. No politics, no agenda. Just simple compassion. A murmur ran through the chamber. Many delegates looked uncomfortable. They had built their careers on the belief that compassion was weakness. "I have been a queen," Syraxis continued. "I have ruled millions. I have commanded fleets and decided the fates of worlds. But I never understood true strength until I met a human who had lost everything because he refused to stop being kind." She turned to look directly at the human delegation. Marcus was there, standing quietly in the back row. He had not wanted to come. He had said he was not a politician and did not belong in places like this. But Admiral Tanaka had convinced him that his presence mattered. The council punished this man for saving refugees. You took his position, his reputation, his future. You sent him to the edge of space to be forgotten. And what did he do? He built a community where former enemies became friends. He created a place where people of every species could live together in peace. And when my enemies came to destroy everything he had built, he stood his ground. Not because he thought he could win, but because he believed that some things are worth dying for. Raxus walked slowly across the chamber floor. When his outpost was being bombarded from orbit, when death was certain, Marcus Chen did not beg for mercy. He did not surrender me to save himself. He told his people to hide in the tunnels and prepare to fight until the end. Not for glory, not for power, just because he believed that every life matters. Even the life of a broken queen who had been given to him as a joke. She stopped in the center of the chamber and raised her voice. That is what humanity is. Not the strongest species, not the most advanced, but the most compassionate, the most stubborn in their belief that kindness is never wasted. They showed me that worth is not granted by birth or title. It is proven through choice, through action, through the courage to be good even when it costs everything. The chamber was completely silent. I am asking the Council to restore humanity's full diplomatic standing. I am asking you to recognize the Free Valori as an independent movement, separate from the Old Dominion. And I am asking you to establish the first joint human-Valor cooperative territory, based on the principles I witnessed in that mining outpost: partnership, equality, compassion without conditions. She turned to face the full assembly one last time. He gave Marcus Chen, a fallen queen, is a cruel joke. You expected him to prove humanity's weakness or cruelty. Instead, he proved something that none of you expected. He showed me that true strength is not about power over others. It is about what you do when you have power and choose not to use it for yourself. She bowed her head. I am Syraxis. I was a queen. I was broken. I was raised higher than I ever stood before. And I owe everything to a human who saw me as a person when no one else did. The vote that followed was not even close. For the first time in decades, the Council voted unanimously in favor of a human proposal. Humanity was restored to full standing. The Free Valori were recognized. The cooperative territory was approved. It was a new beginning. 6 months later, Marcus stood on a hillside overlooking the rebuilt outpost. It had grown since the attack. New buildings had been constructed. New families had arrived. The population had tripled, and more refugees were coming every day. Humans and Valori worked side by side in the fields below. Children of both species played together in the dust, their laughter carried on the wind. A school had been built where young ones learned about cooperation and respect. A hospital served anyone who needed help, regardless of species or origin. Siraxis walked up the hill to join him. She moved easily now, her strength fully restored. She still bore the scars of her captivity. Her wings would never grow back. Her antennae would never regenerate. But she carried herself like a queen again. Better than a queen. Like someone who had chosen who she wanted to be. You could be anywhere in the galaxy now, Marcus said, without turning around. The Council offered you an ambassadorship. The Free Valori want you to lead them. Why stay here? Siraxis stood beside him, looking out at the settlement below. Because this is where I learned what matters. This is where I discovered that power means nothing if you do not use it to help others. I do not want to rule from a distant palace. I want to build something real. Something lasting. Something like what you built here. Marcus smiled. It is not much. Just a mining outpost at the edge of space. It is everything. It is proof that different species can live together as equals. It is proof that compassion is stronger than cruelty. It is proof that the galaxy can change. A young Valerie girl came running up the hill. She had been born after the Civil War, raised in the settlement by parents who had chosen a new way of life. She looked at Siraxis with bright, curious eyes. Lady Siraxis, can you tell us a story? The other children want to hear about the human who saved you. Siraxis knelt down to the child's level, of course. But it is not just a story about a human who saved me. It is a story about choice. About deciding who you want to be, no matter what others expect of you. She looked up at Marcus with warmth in her eyes. Come, sit with us. You should help tell it. Marcus hesitated. I am not good with stories. You are good with truth. That is better. They walked down the hill together, toward the group of children waiting below. Human children and Valerie children, sitting together in the grass, eager to hear about the day the universe changed. That evening, as the twin suns set over the outpost, an older child asked Siraxis what she had lost when her wings were taken. Siraxis looked around at the settlement, at the humans and aliens living in peace, at Marcus helping a young Valori repair a broken water pump, at children of different species sharing food and laughter. I lost what I was born with, she said quietly, but I gained something they could never give me, the choice of who I want to become. The child thought about this for a moment. Is that worth more than wings? Siraxis smiled, the first real smile she had worn in years. It is worth more than anything. On a forgotten outpost at the edge of known space, a new chapter began. Not just for humanity or the Valori, but for the entire galaxy. A chapter built on the simple truth that one act of kindness can change everything. The end.